Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the third week of this exclusive mastermind call. We're all here for the same reason, to go to the next level. Everybody on this call has signed up for Darren Hardy's Insane Productivity Program, and everybody on this call, you wouldn't be here if you weren't serious about making a change. Obviously, the first 2 weeks have all been around how do we be less ADD, how do we be less addicted to technology. I know it's been a pretty humbling experience for me over the past 2 weeks, as I've really been a lot more intentional around how often I'm on Facebook, how often I'm being distracted by text message, emails, bings, bangs, and just the busyness of communication. It's been humbling for me personally. The past 2 weeks I have been the primary leader of this call, and I think in the spirit of what we're all here for, to mastermind, it'd be a great opportunity to really hand off that lead chair to Todd Bookspan. Todd, if you're new to this, well, Todd's not, but if you were on this call and it's like the first time you've been to this call, Todd has been one of the top loan officers in the country for years. He's now a full-time coach for Building Champions, and he's also gone pretty deep with Darren Hardy. I mean, he's had Darren speak to realtor events. He's been through this insane productivity multiple times. And so really, I'm going to just kick back and be part of the audience here and let Todd be the lead moderator. I've also invited Jen DuPlessis to this call. Jen is another one of America's best mortgage professionals in the East Coast and the Washington, D.C. market. She's also been through this insane productivity program at least once, and I have invited her as a leadership role to be one of the mortgage coach professionals that's going to help create content for this special product that we're bringing to market. So Jen, welcome to your first mastermind call, and thanks for making time to bring your leadership here.
Of course, thank you so much. So I just want to make sure you can hear me okay.
We can hear you perfectly, Jen.
Okay, wonderful.
All right. Well, hey, with all that said, I'm really going to hand off the lead role to Todd to moderate today's call. Todd, it's all yours. Folks, again, I want to remind everybody, participation is required. I would love for everybody on this call to at least ask a question, share an insight, remind you that you can do that in our Facebook private group, and you can also post questions in the GoToMeeting control panel. So the more engagement, the more value everybody gets from this call. With that said, Todd, it's all yours, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Super excited to, I guess, take the reins of this call today. And kind of as Dave said, certainly we're going to count on everyone's participation. I'm excited to have Jen alongside riding shotgun to help me out. I opened up with the private Insane Productivity Mortgage Coach Mastermind group at Dave's request. I did put a poll on there if you guys want to multitask for a second. It looks like most of you have completed Module 2. We'll kind of, as we talk about it, if you are one of the people who hasn't completed Module 2, don't be concerned. We're not really going to spoil anything for you. There's no, there's no super secrets that we'll be giving away, but we will be talking about that. As far as this goes, as Dave said, I'll throw out his rules. He had put up a slide last week, so I copied his slide. This isn't anything too exciting. Participation is a must. If I do all the talking, it's going to be super boring for you guys and not very much fun. So we got to we'll do that as Dave has run the last 2 weeks. We'll run open mics. We got Marcy running behind the scenes.
Hey, Todd, by the way, I'm not seeing your slide, just FYI.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, Todd must have hit the wrong button. so folks, Todd will be back. And Jen, I'm going to let you do a little bit more of an introduction of yourself, and also just knowing that everybody on this call, a great many of them, have gone through the second module. So why don't you, share a little bit about your experience with Insane Productivity and kind of co-lead until Todd gets back in the game.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Okay, well, first of all, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in lending for now 33 years, and well, it'll be my 34th year, but I've been in management, executive management, sales management, an underwriter, and the last 17 or 18 years or so I've been a team lead for origination, and that's what I do. I have a team of 5 people. And, you know, my goal has always been, and this is why I was so attracted to Insane Productivity, and I've actually been with Darren Hardy for a couple of years now. I'm also a member of his master's program, his mastery program, and I've also attended his live event. So I'm a big fan. I listen to Darren daily, and you know, for me, you know, production was great, and being in the top 200 loan officers, you know, in the top 1%, and all of that was wonderful, except that I was never really feeling complete and happy because I was still just working a lot of long hours, and I thought, well, how, you know, there's a point where you want to go to the next level, perhaps in production, but internally. And one of the things that we'll all learn from Darren is that, you know, we have to sort of fix ourselves first before we can move forward, and that's why in the first module it's about distractions, and, you know, and all of these modules will help us understand who we are and what success really looks like for us and what we really want it to be. And so it may not be a monetary success, it might be something that you're trying to accomplish internally to try to create some balance in your life. And I know that word is overused quite a bit. I actually don't believe in balance, but I believe in the time compression that he will be talking to us about in the coming weeks, about really being laser focused in our activities. And so now I'm happy to say that aside from having a conference call today and perhaps having to attend a closing on Fridays, I only work 4 days a week. And that's my design, and that was my choice, but I couldn't have done that without Darren and Insane Productivity. So that's where I'm coming from, is, you know, wanting to go to a completely different level, both in monetary production, but also in my personal life, going to that happy place, that happy place. And as we all know in this industry, it's hard to get there sometimes. You know, we have a lot going on, and so anyway, so that's what I'm here to talk about today, and, you know, just chirp in and help with anybody. So do we have Todd yet?
I think I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, Todd, welcome back.
You know, that was super embarrassing when you're leading your first webinar and all of a sudden your phone goes dead and you look at the screen and it says "Go to meeting" has basically kicked you out. So,
Right.
you know, I got my first text this morning was actually from Darren, and his text said, "Don't suck today." So it was great words of encouragement, and so far I'm off to a good start. But thanks, Jen, for jumping in. And I could say, certainly, listening to the part that I caught, it certainly sounds like a business and life that most of us are shooting to achieve. So I know we can learn a lot by having Jen as part of the group. And you know, I'll kind of just blow through this stuff. So make sure you guys are controlling your mute, right? So we have the mics wide open. If you've got us on speakerphone in your car, we're going to hear it. If you've got us on if you're in your office and you've got us on the audio control set to computer and you're on the phone, it's not going to work. So there's an audio button that says phone call. Just make sure you hit that. You can always raise your hand. If you raise your hand, we'll see you, so then we can call on you. And but just as Jen said, don't be afraid to speak up, because ultimately we're going to need some participation. Since I looked at that survey, most of you guys have completed through module 2, but we'll rewind and we'll talk a little bit about what Dave talked about before, because a lot of you are new to the call. So this is Dave's why, right? He started this mastermind group to help provide a level of accountability to increase your productivity and to help you interact with other like-minded mortgage coach professionals who are embarking on insane productivity. One thing that you heard Jen say, which is really true, I mean, Darren Hardy's why is to help make all of us more productive. He really, truly means that. It seems he's a genuine person who actually, what drives him, you know, what makes him get all super excited is having someone come up to him and say how what he teaches has changed their life. We were, the first time that I had lunch with him and my wife and my business partner, the manager of the restaurant came up and said, "I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but I've got a young man who wants to meet you." And it was a busboy at the restaurant who had immigrated to the U.S. and said that Darren was one of his biggest inspirations, and how he had influenced him to want to strive for more. And Darren, excused himself, pulled aside, went to talk to this kid for a few minutes, but Darren came back, beaming. He was super excited after hearing that kid's story. So he's going to want to hear that. So again, we're not going to spend too much time on Module 1, but what do you guys have as your biggest takeaways from Module 1? Does anyone want to volunteer to speak up? How about you, Troy? I know that you have some takeaways because you were brave enough to post it into the private group on Facebook.
Whose background are we hearing? I'm hearing someone take out trash or something.
All right. How about you, Michelle? I see you got yourself on mute, but I know your name. I know you're a super producer. Have you been through Module 1 yet?
Who are you asking, Todd?
I was asking Michelle if she's on, if she could unmute herself. And
We have someone else who is not on mute that might want to put themselves on mute.
all right. How about Ed Rooney? You look like you're not muted.
Okay, I was just about to raise my hand anyway.
There we go.
First of all, I'll admit I'm a little behind on my homework, but as I recall, Module 1, I think the biggest takeaway that I got was with respect to being aware of distractions and trying to minimize distractions as much as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, Mark? You've got your hand raised. Why don't you jump in?
Same thing, really. It's the amount of distractions and just the science behind everything. It was just mind-blowing. And he did a really good job of getting, your attention with how big the problem really is.
Yeah, I think that's true. I heard Dave say at the early on that he's changed some of his habits around his phone and social media. Mark, have you implemented anything different since you started Insane Productivity?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've already turned off so many notifications on all my apps. It's so nice, even things like CNBC or Bloomberg, and it was kind of like you justified it as, oh well, I kind of got to know what's going on with the overall markets and stuff. And then it's like, no, I don't. Mortgage Coach is a great example. Just watch Dan Ratwich's video for 4 minutes in the morning, and you're pretty much caught up on everything. And then everything else is just a distraction. And it's realizing that checking your text at a stoplight, right? That the thing I didn't realize is how much that leads to the feeling of being overwhelmed. And then that causes you to be distracted more and kills your productivity more. So I don't know. So far, I found it very liberating. I was behind. I just started this week, but I did 1, I did 2, and I did 3 this morning, and it was so far. I'm just loving it.
All right, so you're a total overachiever. That's great. We need people like you in this group. I would say this something that's pretty interesting. I bet Jen can probably attest to it as well. When the first time that we brought Darren to speak in town, I was his chauffeur. I picked him up at the airport, drove him half an hour to his hotel, picked him up for dinner. We took him to a dinner where he interacted with 30 of our realtor partners, drove him home, dropped him at the hotel, and then launched. He did his presentation all morning, and then we went to lunch with him for a couple of hours. And the interesting thing about it is that he didn't get on his phone one time when we were together. He never once was looking at his phone to see what was going on. The only time that he asked permission of us to look at his phone was when we got back in the car after lunch, and I was dropping him back at his hotel because he was meeting somebody through that Success Magazine had arranged. They'd won some contest, and he wanted to make sure he remembered that person's name. But other than that, the whole time that he was with us, he was never on his phone. Did you notice that too, Jen?
Yeah, I think, and trying to put that into, practicality on what we're doing on a regular basis, from all the distractions. And I love that I heard, that you turned off all of your notifications. It's just not important to do that. And so to put in an application to what we do, many years ago, and I don't know how many of you are on the phone that are older, I'm 52, so, it used to be that having a Mont Blanc was the thing, right? We all had Mont Blancs. And then it became your car, and then it became your McMansion, and now it's being busier than the next guy is seen as being success. And what I've learned is that, through Darren, is that busy for busy's sake is not successful. That's just a lot of busyness, and a lot of undue stress on you. And, what he's taught me is how to learn how to be present. And that's what you're alluding to, Todd, is that he's present. And so I would challenge everybody this week, to think about whether you are present. When you get home and you have kids or family or, your significant other, even if you're playing sports, and you're doing something, are you constantly going to your phone and just checking your messages, because you're not present? And that is a buzzword that's gone through my family now. Used to be accountability, and it still is, be accountable to everything. But now it's, are you being present? And there's a internal calmness that happens when you are present. It's absolutely amazing. And so for the first couple times you might be a little concerned because you can't touch your phone or anything, but the world's not going to end, and being able to be present will put a nice, thin blanket of calm around you. So yeah, I totally, understand that. And I think, what I love about Darren is he does what he preaches, right? He actually does it, and he doesn't just talk about it.
Yeah, the big aha for me was that, quite frankly, although at that point I was a customer, it's before we became friends, he was totally present with us, and I thought about the fact that, there's people that I care a whole lot more about than I care about Darren and my friendship with him, who I don't have that same respect for, because I'll hop on my phone and check something, or that vibration goes off on a text message, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that could be super important, and I want to look at it. So I've definitely put that on my updated list of things I'm gonna work on.
Yeah.
Some of you guys heard Bill Hart last week talk about the digital sunset, and I made fun of him because that's just sometimes what I do. I'm sarcastic, because he literally put it up on Facebook at the end of the day, like, digital sunset, goodbye everybody. And I thought to myself, if you have to actually tell everyone you're getting off Facebook, that's probably not good. But it was actually smart of Bill. He's known out there as a coach who's really connected to social media, and so for him, he was just telling all of his followers, hey, this is something new for me. I'm going to be knocking off every night. Have any of you guys instituted yourself a curfew for when you're getting off social media and off your phone? I'll take that as a no. I always laugh because I know my daughter was asking me about this morning. She and I had breakfast before I took her to school, and she said, Dad, are you worried about this? I said, the only thing I'm worried about is the awkward pause when I ask a question and I can't see anyone's faces, and I have to be comfortable with that awkward pause. So that's okay. All right, so let's jump for a second into, let me put on my fancy PowerPoint that I did. Let's jump back into Module 2 and some big takeaways from there. So definitely want to spend more time this week on this material, because it should be fresher in everyone's mind. Anyone brave enough to unmute themselves and give us what your big takeaways were from Module 2?
Hi, Todd. This is Marcy, and I'm going to jump in with a few questions that we received from a few of our Mortgage Coach members. They do have some feedback. We have Bliss that mentioned that this helped motivate her to get started and dedicate herself to these calls and the modules, even when she's busy. We received some good feedback from Michelle Town, who also mentions to the fact that the distractions were blaringly obvious and overwhelming now that she sees them. She has been able to turn off all her notifications and milestones on her loan to the team. She has started telling her clients that their first line of defense, once the loan is in process, is to call her assistant. She also has a message on her voicemail in out of office, always telling them to go to her TC, first and fastest, for the fastest response. We also received some feedback from Debbie Logan, who says that for her, she liked the beginning on whose opinion does she need to stop caring about. Also, she says, I'm not sure how to find that balance between giving myself time and being available. So she is asking how she can start doing that without agents thinking she's too busy for them. A lot of the agents, she says, feels if they are working on the weekend, we should be also, or they want instant access. And then Anna Calzada has mentioned that between 9:30 and 10 p.m., it sounds like it are the actual times that she's actually tuning out or taking time maybe for herself.
Love it. Love it. So, all right, Michelle, are you willing to jump on and us digging a little deeper on all these things you've implemented?
Hi, Michelle. If you enter in your PIN, you'll be able to unmute your line.
I think that would be great because I think she can probably address your question, Debbie, because I think that's probably the number one thing that I get in coaching loan officers is how do I strike that balance between doing what I have to do and being readily available, Johnny on the spot for my realtors who expect me to be at their beck and call. But it sounds to me like Michelle has implemented some new things and would love to hear her feedback if we can pull it off. Hey, Jen, how about you? Since you're only working 4 days a week, what have you implemented that will allow the people that you do business with to be okay with the fact that when they need you on a Friday, they're not going to get you personally?
Yeah, so, well, I've implemented, I have everything that Michelle was just talking about in place. So if you call my my cell phone, my work line, you'll get a voicemail that says, I'm sorry that I missed you. Your call's very important to me. However, if you're calling about a new referral, and what I love about saying something like that is that it's saying that I actually accept referrals. Okay, but if you're calling about a new referral, please press 3 and you'll be connected with my mortgage planner. And if you're calling about a loan that's in process, please press 4 and you'll be contacted with my production partner, and she'll be able to answer all your questions. So it really starts with not just you changing or us changing and saying, well, we're going to set up all these things so that they're going to know that I don't want to work as many hours. It really is, and it's a great opportunity for you as well to reach out to your real estate partners and have one-to-ones or have conversations that say, I'm going through, in so many words, okay, you're going through a transformation in your life that you're trying to get a better handle of your productivity, and in doing so, having that conversation with them and setting up the expectation that you're not their beck and call girl or beck and call boy, okay, and that you are extending yourself from a place that is being the difference between being on demand and in demand. Does that make sense?
Love it.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that they understand that, I'm not going to be a yes woman anymore in so many nice words, but that I want to elevate my level to, myself to a different level. And what I find is that once you start acting more professional and more, you come from a place of abundance rather than scarcity and not a cat on a marble floor scratching your way to getting deals, people will be willing to wait just a little bit. And I'm not talking about a long time because of the productivity I have. I get back in touch with everyone within, 4 or 5 hours, let's say, and 24 hours at the worst. And I hear a lot of horror stories, with loan officers I coach, where they're not getting back to people for a week or two, and that's just silly. But so I'm going to get back to them. I'm just not going to be their beck and call. And they understand that. And for the A-pluses that I have, I've set up a little bit of a tickler system so that if they need me, they can get me in a different manner. But I think what you want to do is stop being a yes person and set yourself up to be more professional. I mean, these in our industry, this is where we're heading. We're heading to a new era of lending where we're actually very we're experts in our industry, and we want to be perceived as the utmost a professional. And that can't happen if we continue to work the way that we have in the past. So we have to kind of grab the reins, have a conversation with them and say, look, in order for me to serve you better, I need to be able to make some adjustments, and it's not negative, it's positive. I'll actually be able to serve you better because I'll be present.
Yeah, I think that's so true, and I know Michelle sent us a note that she was having trouble. She was going to try to log back on. I don't know if you were able to get your audio to work or not. If you have, Michelle, just feel free to jump right back in.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yay!
There you are. All right. So it's the day of technical challenges. Okay. So, I always love when someone is willing to take on what for most people is the scariest possible thing in the mortgage business, and is making it look like you're too busy or unavailable. And just as we heard Jen talk about, there's great systems that so many successful loan officers have put in place. But there's always that fear. So as you put that new stuff in, how's it going? What kind of advice would you have for the group?
Well, I can tell you that I was totally adamant against this for years because I always felt that I got more business because I was more available, and that is so not true. Right. And I will tell you, it's just I was burning myself out. I was working 16-hour days, Monday through Sunday, and I remember I went to a seminar, and I think it was Todd's a couple years ago, where he said, "This is what you do," and I go, "Never, never." And I'm here to eat my words and tell you, it is great. I started this about a year ago, where I actually brought in a team and said, okay, Cindy Ertman is one of my she coaches me, and she says, you've got to trust your team. And she goes, if you don't trust your team, then you've got the wrong team. So what I had to do was really empower them and give them, you guys need to be the first line of defense for me. I will take all the sales calls that I can when I can, but I need you guys to run the backside of the ops. And we just did a major overhaul about 60 days ago, and I'm telling you, all of us are so refreshed. Everything is going so great. I have never had more business coming in and me having to work 9-hour days and not 12-hour days. I'm managing the exceptions truly right now instead of the problems, which is, it's so nice. And the day-to-day stuff I've really given to my team, and part of that comes with setting the expectations for your client. And if you let them know, and how I tell people is, it's not that I don't want to be there for you all the time, because I will be there. If you need me, I will be there. But if you want your loan to close on time, I have hired a team of extreme professionals. This is all they do, and this is what they do. They know how to make this loan close and get to the finish line. I can do it as well, but it's going to take me a little bit longer. So, and I have not had anybody in the last year, with the exception, let me take that back. I've had one client that didn't like the process because he felt like I was handing him off, but 1 out of 142, I'm okay with.
I love it. I think that's great. I think that, the words I wrote down were systems and scripts, right? That's, that's kind of what it's about. And I think it really does tie right into Module 2, and then it also rolls us into Module 3. I put in my notes, right, we're addicted to busy. And, Darren said busy we're busy being busy but accomplishing little. And so, I think it's always an interesting interesting challenge to go from originator to team leader. And I would say that, there's some of you I know on the call who may just be a loan officer on your own and not have a team like others on the call have. But that's really where what we'll learn in Module 3 will really help you. So we'll kind of jump in on some of those ideas next week. I think there's some huge advantages. And I think that the other thing that Michelle said that was huge is she had one mad client, and unfortunately, if not everyone's going to do business the way that you want to do business. If you have 90% of your clients are mad, then obviously you're probably not doing the business the way that you can sustain going forward. But if you have less than 1% like she had have a problem, then obviously Michelle's on the right track. Kudos to you.
Yep, I would agree. I think, I think the high trust transfer is really important, that you're communicating that you're not dispensing the activities or the job duties or the return phone calls or anything to someone who is of lesser quality than you. That you're making sure that they understand that they're of higher quality than you because they're better than you. Now, technically they may not be, okay, but they're better suited and capable of handling that portion of the loan process than you are, given the amount of business that you have, because you won't be present. Again, it's all about this being present. If you just received notification of an appraisal that came in low right before you're about ready to meet with a new client, who are you serving? If you're handling all that yourself, you're worried about the appraisal in the back of your mind. The client isn't getting your full attention, so it's not good for them, and it's not good for you because you're stressing out about it. So, again, it's about being present and letting everything else go away when you're doing that one activity at a time, which we'll learn more in the other modules about time compression. But so I think that's wonderful that you finally jumped in and did that, Michelle.
Well, thank you. And I will tell you one other little secret that I'll give everybody, because I have no secrets. I believe in sharing everything. Okay, don't laugh. Before I walk into a meeting with a client or before I pick up the phone, I say the words goose fraba. And if anybody knows anger management, that came from there, but I go goose fraba, because I clear my mind of anything else that's going on, because the defining theme over this last year has been being present, and you can't be present if you're thinking about somebody else's loan. You can't. And that client deserves your 100% attention when you're on the phone with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the key, right? So we're continuing to hear that same theme of being present. I know, Bliss, you've got your hand up. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, actually, so cool, Michelle. You just answered or helped shed a lot of light on that. So I have been able to produce about 120 units a year without an assistant, without working excessive hours. And then this year, my marketing, I guess, started to work. And so things got a lot busier. And so that's kind of what led me to Insane Productivity. And I'm also hiring an assistant for about 25 hours a week. But this is what I struggle with, is that I have ideas and lots of ideas, and I want to implement them, but doing that focus work so you're not working on problems all the time, where I figure I spend about 10% of my time marketing and 90% of my time solving problems. And that includes pre-quals, because to me that's all part of that. I want to make it so that I'm spending 40% of my time marketing and 60% of my time problem solving, pre-quals, loans in process, and that kind of thing. And it's letting go, because I feel like part of what makes me good at what I do is that I'm available and I can solve problems really pretty quickly. So letting go of that.
I'm better than most.
What's that? Yeah, so
I think
that's my struggle, is how do
better than most. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so how do I let go and trust that I can create a team? And I have a fabulous processor, and I think I'm hiring a fabulous assistant. But really, in the past, what's made me good and gotten me referrals has been my availability and my knowledge of the intricacies of each transaction. So I'm letting go of both of those things in doing this. I believe in it, but I'm just wondering how much anxiety I'm going to have letting go. And Michelle, you addressed a lot of that, so that was awesome. I appreciated everything you just said.
Well, I'm going to address it a little bit more, and I'm not going to lie to you. You're going to have anxiety. There's,
Right.
Dang it.
just
Dang
at the
it.
level that you're at, you're going to have it. Goose Brava works well. Breathing, I did a mortgage coach
Deep
presentation,
breathing.
and I have
Yes.
I have a sticker on my computer that says smile, because it is contagious. And if I smile when I pick up the phone, I can usually address everything. You really, I would suggest not turning over everything at once, because that will totally make your stress levels beyond. You'll sit there and think you're failing.
Okay.
Start
So
with
baby
one piece, baby steps, and allow them to make mistakes, and really empower your team to be able to talk to you and make the mistakes. I mean, I hired a very young assistant, because at first, the average age of a loan officer is 51, and we need youth. And and I knew his dad, so I know he breathes he breathes mortgages. He's been born in it, and he is super talented, but he makes mistakes. He doesn't have the knowledge base that I have, which I wouldn't expect, but I let him make the mistakes. And when he makes a mistake, we just came from a sales rally. I know this is going to sound funny, but I say, good. And he goes, what? And I go, that's good. That means you have room for improvement. I said, so let's address the problem. And I just let him make mistakes. And, most of the time they're fixable. And because I want my team to come to me first before it becomes, a disaster where it can't be fixed. Come to me when the problem starts. And if I take away their power, which I did, I just want to let you know I made the mistakes last year big time. And, I would take the reins back every single time. And that was wrong. And it took me a while to realize I just had to let, one or two of those loans go sideways, because I needed them to know that I trusted them. And we've worked through it. It's been 8 months since we had any major disaster. And I'm telling you, your life is about to change, and in a good way. I mean, you're really going to be more productive, more available for your clients, because you're not going to be in the minutia of the loan part of it. You're going to be doing what your talent is, which is selling and structuring loans.
And that's my vision. And so thank you for that inspiration. I'm going to call and hire her as soon as we get off this phone.
I love it. I love it. I think that's the power of the mortgage coach community. I think that, I appreciate how transparent Michelle is. She's willing to share, and it seems to me that that's every time I get on a mortgage coach call, that's what we get. Are there any other people who haven't spoken up who've recently either been in Bliss's shoes where you're scared to build the team, or where you're in Michelle's shoes and you've been successful and started implementing these ideas? But you, Mark, Dave told me I could call you out. He said Mark is a monster producer. How does this look like in your world?
Yeah, I agree with everything. About a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I hired kind of admin, but really half her job was call router. So I don't answer my phone. It goes to her. Like, I'll see it call, but I'll just pass it through, and it'll go to her. And then if she calls back, I know it's like a new deal or something like extremely important to answer it. But, just the ability to not have that chaotic interruption of, having the phone ring whenever. And, I mean, it's very liberating. And as you grow your team, I forget who was just talking, like, it's huge, man. The amount of freedom and everything else, it's just so much easier. And then as you're growing and your pipeline gets bigger and bigger and you're dealing with 60, 70, 80 active files, you can't keep any idea of what's going on with them. It's just too many numbers. But every one of my clients I still meet with. I go to a meeting, or I meet them face-to-face, and I go over an edge with them, and I talk over their broader financial plans and how, we can develop a mortgage that fits into those financial plans. So, yeah, I would just agree with everything else everybody's saying. Just do it. It's the best decision you ever do.
I would say this. So if you think about it, we heard two different approaches to it. So Mark's got a live person who answers his calls, right? So certainly one of the ways to overcome your fear of not being immediately available for your clients, your referral partners, is to have someone else who is, right? Have a live person who answers the phone. And then you also heard Michelle say that she's got an auto attendant, or no, you actually heard Jen say she's got an auto attendant. So when you call into her, it says, hey, you reach me, you know, press 1 for this, and 2 for that, and 3 for this. And that's connecting people. And so there's no right way. It's whatever's the right way for you. And again, the cool thing about it is that there's so many people that you can connect with here. I would definitely love to see this conversation continue on the Facebook page if people want to continue that discussion, because it definitely seems to be a huge piece of what I hear from the coach's chair and just talking to other friends in the mortgage business. Anyone else on the call who has anything to add to the conversation on this part of Teams? So I would say, kind of as we continue to look through here, one of the things that struck me is when I read the bit or heard the bit from Darren on, the original study was that Fortune 500 CEOs, the study was that they did 90 minutes worth of actual productivity each day, and then Jack Welch said, I doubt it's that much, and then lo and behold, they come back with this 28-minute statistic. I got to imagine that we've all felt at some point that it would have been 28 minutes of productivity. But I know these distractions all kind of come in here and and hurt us. What as far as some specifics back on the insane productivity side of things, Darren in this module asked, what are 3 things I'll turn off? I heard some people say they turned off notifications. Anyone else can throw in something that they've stopped doing or turned off. I know that Anna said that she's obviously going into the digital sunset, between 9:30 and 10. How about the rest of you?
Can you hear me?
We hear you a little bit. You're a little far away. Can you get a little closer to the phone or the computer monitor? Or
Hold on. Any better?
We can hear you now. Yep.
Okay.
Go for it.
Hey, earlier you called me on me. My phone was malfunctioning too, but goes hand in hand. It's like, last week I was sharing that I 86'd all my notifications on my phone. And yeah, it is 100% liberating because, I'm not relying on it. I'm actually more calm, even calmer this week than last week. But taking it one step further, I noticed is that turning off the email, like Outlook, when you're with a client, because I catch myself still this week looking at the emails when the pop-up comes up, just like on the phone. And that's one thing that from this week's module that I'm changing on when the world is turning off the Outlook and just treating that like the Outlook on your desktop like I treat the Outlook on my phone.
Yeah, I think that's huge, right? Because, in the end, if someone's emailing you, typically it's not something urgent, correct?
Correct.
Has anyone called you out and said, hey, Troy, I emailed you an hour ago and you didn't email me back?
No, not at all, because like a couple things I was going to share earlier was I was golfing a couple weeks ago right before we went and did this and actually golfed for 2 days. First day, I'm actually looking at my phone every other hole, worried about missing emails, never got any, nothing important, and I golfed the worst round of my life. Next day, I spent 5 hours, never looked at my emails one time, and golfed the best round of my life. And not one email was something that was urgent that couldn't wait till like 4 in the afternoon to get back. And
well, I think that's huge.
Or anything.
This is Jen. So, that just brings up a really good point about, the fact that in our industry, we're so service-oriented that we think that everyone needs a quick, fast response, right? And it's amazing, think about the times that someone has asked you, when do you need this? Do you need it right away or not? And what is our response? We say, no, you can get it to me next week. It's not an urgent thing. But we don't ask that question. And so, when we're talking to people and they say that for example, I need a pre-approval letter, right? we just jump through hoops to try to figure out how to get one to them as quickly as possible, rather than saying, when are you actually making the offer? And, you know, that's happened to me time and time again. In fact, it just happened yesterday. I received an email saying, hey, I need to write a pre-approval letter. Can you get that over to me? Yeah, when are you actually presenting the offer? Saturday morning. Saturday morning. And this email came in last night at like 6 o'clock. And normally someone would jump through hoops, turn your computer on, sorry family, we can't have dinner, I have to do a pre-approval letter, when all we have to do is just ask the question. And again, this gets back to being on demand versus in demand, you know, to put myself in a situation where I'm now on demand instead of that I'm in demand rather than on demand, and saying, yes, I can get it to you, would it be okay if we did it tomorrow? So I think a lot of those emails, Troy, that you get in, or anybody gets in, we tend to think they're all on fire.
That's true. So true, because I got doing the same way, caught myself this week. I had a couple things happen. I just go, hey, can I get back to you in a few hours? Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
But typically it would be, okay, I'll get to you, have you in 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
They weren't mad whatsoever. It's like, sure. It's all self-perceived.
Well, it definitely is. And, you know, some verbiage, some scripting that I use for that is, you know, Troy, I'll be happy to get back to you. When do you need it? Well, I don't need it till later on today. Great. I will get it back to you between the hours of 4 and 6. Now, it's not at 4. It's not at 4:30. You're not giving a specific time. You're giving them a time frame that you're carving out, you know, to do that type of activity. But when you're with a client and you're on the phone, you can say, you know, I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you. I'm so glad that, you know, Susie Q referred you to me. Would it be okay if I gave you a call back today between 4 and 6 when I'm in front of my computer and I can dedicate 100% of my attention to serving you?
I love that.
And they all say, oh yeah, no problem. So now it's on my timeline in my block of time that I'm going to be making those phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's key, right? And so what you're hearing from the people on the call who have these systems in place is, again, they have a system, they've got scripts around it, and they're not afraid to ask questions because, again, it is self-perceived. I mean, we all know how we think people want it, but we don't really know until we ask those questions. And once you do, you know, I love it that you said, Jen, that you got the email last night. Again, most people would stay up till 9 o'clock working on that pre-approval when the person really didn't need it last night. And so I encourage you all to be taking notes and thinking about these ideas and seeing how you can implement them into your mortgage business, because ultimately, you know, that's what we're all here to do is learn from each other on it. The other thing I've seen people do as well is if you're worried about your email, just like we heard Mark say he's got someone to answer his phone, I had an assistant who actually had access to my email, and so she was able to go in there, delete all the junk out, get rid of it all, only push through to me to a private email address the emails that actually needed a response. And it was hugely freeing for me because then I wasn't sitting there every 40 seconds looking at my email trying to figure out if something coming through that someone urgently needs. And ironically, again, you know, although you may get hundreds of emails today, most of the time if you actually look at it, there's typically only a handful that are actionable. One of the things you heard Michelle say earlier is that she turned off all the loan status notifications. And again, I think that's something that many of us stay too deep into our loans and we get preoccupied worrying about that as opposed to letting our processor, who typically is better equipped to manage that process than we are, do their job. And so, again, other things that you're hearing from this group, I think that will be hugely, hugely freeing as we continue to try to improve our productivity. The module 2, Darren gave homework, which is kind of like the homework we talked about last week. Apparently, we got ahead of ourselves. He says to do at least 3 90-minute jam sessions this week. Darren will tell you he tries to do 3 a day. He's going to always say do the first one first thing in the morning. He talks about creating a bubble of silence, setting a timer, and only working on one project Most of us are borderline ADD, if not full-blown ADD, so I think working on one project for 90 minutes is a little bit daunting. I loved Dave's transparency last week when he said that his jam sessions are 20 minutes. And so, again, I think you have to look at that. If you look closely to Module 2, when Darren showed his calendar, he showed a 90-minute block in the morning, he showed a 60-minute block in the middle of the day, and then he showed another 90-minute block at the end of the day. So it's kind of getting your own rhythm down and trying to figure out what that looks like for you. Jen, has the jam session been something that's been successful for you since becoming a Darren Hardy implementation expert?
Yeah, well, I'm getting there. I think we're always continuing to improve, but I have 2 a day. So the first is that I subscribe to the Morning Miracle and utilize that time to do my vision and my goals and oops. And just, breathing and getting control of my emotions. So I use that time in the morning, and then at night I do another 90-minute session, which is a debrief for myself, and that's typically when I'm working on the bigger picture items, the things that are coming up in the next 2 weeks, like a presentation or a new module that I'm trying to do, in teaching for realtors or something like that. So I'm not at the point where I can do 3 a day. I'm at the point where I'm doing 2 a day, and I feel really comfortable with that because I am working 4 days a week. The rest of the day has got to be laser-focused activity.
No, I love that. I love that transparency, and that's why Darren says to start with 3 in a whole week, right? So that gives you guys a lot of time to try to make that happen without feeling overwhelmed by it. I think the hardest part is to step away, and my recommendation always is to people when you're going to time block is to try to get out of your house and get out of your office, go somewhere to a Starbucks or somewhere where you can sit with a set of headphones on and try to get rid of those distractions, because ultimately if you don't do an efficient job of blocking everybody else out, I could say that 15 years as an originator and running a team and being in an office, that was always my Achilles heel. Just this past year, I forced myself to learn to time block in my office. I stuck there's a big window, so people always come by and look at what you're doing, and I always get distracted and look up. I turn my computer around, face it the other direction. I just stuck big Post-it notes on there that said, "Do not disturb. I'm working on our business to grow our business." And with the exception of my wife, who I work with, everyone respects that, and nobody bothered me when I was at the office. But typically, I would subscribe to Darren's do it first thing in the day, and I would do it before I came into the office. But it's pretty refreshing to be able to do it from the office. And if you guys haven't already tried to institute that, I would think that that's probably one of the top 10, maybe even top 5 areas in insane productivity. If you can implement the jam session, that'll be the biggest thing that'll propel your success above just about all else.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to learn how to stop to go faster, or slow down to go faster. We tend to go faster and faster and faster and faster. And that's the whole objective behind the jam session, is to have that opportunity to stop and think about our business, not just be in our business and our practices, but to really stop and think about what we want in life, and what we want. I talk about this quite a bit. We obviously, in the lending business, we have a quality of life that is so unique and different from other people who are in sales. We make a lot of money, and so we have a quality of life. But I'm looking for a life of quality, and there's a key difference between the two. So it's one thing to have things, do production, have things, be busy, have a team, be successful. Everybody wants you. You're constantly in demand. But it's another thing to be able to enjoy those things, and so that's where we have to bridge that difference into having a life of quality. Hence the 4 days a week.
Well, I love that. I always hear people talk about it, but I don't see people implement it. So kudos to you for that. I think it's such a thing to aspire to do. I certainly know again, that the business has changed so much over the years, and certainly this the people creating these systems. Mortgage professional specifically around what we do to throw at Darren. So he would love it if you would either post those into the private Facebook page, or if you don't want to post it publicly, he said shoot him an email at dave@mortgagecoach.com. Definitely engage on the private Facebook page. My favorite thing is that Troy posts on there what's going on, and lo and behold, the other person who's responding to his comment is Darren himself. Darren has made a commitment to be part of this group. And I think that Jen would tell you that, once you become kind of part on Darren's radar screen and part of who he is, life seems to expand. He truly is a genuine article and someone who's committed. And I didn't think he was really going to be getting that nitty-gritty in the weeds with us and be in the Facebook group, but he is. So, I love that, and I think that is absolutely going to be a fun part for us. So make sure that you guys are paying attention there and participating. Make sure you guys are also reviewing the completed modules again. Darren says you should be doing this 4, 5, 10 times. Great suggestion is, since a lot of you are committing that you're going to throw your phone in the back seat of the car now and not answer it while you're driving or check Facebook, maybe throw on the phone before you throw it back there. Download the audio out of Insane Productivity and listen to it again. That's where I've got mine on my phone. If any of you are Audible listeners and listen to Audible, for me, oftentimes I'm listening to something now and the person's talking at normal pace. It seems super slow. I found a free app in the iPhone App Store called ASC, and it speeds it up. So I actually uploaded Darren's MP3s in there, and I'm listening to them a whole lot faster. And so that's been a great way for me to review it, and something I would recommend for some of you. And then, of course, don't forget to complete Darren's homework. Certainly next week I'm going to be on an airplane flying to New York. I'm enjoying a 4-day work week like Jen, and I won't, unless GoToMeeting works on GoGo, I won't be on the call in any way. But hopefully when Dave's back in the pilot seat running the show, or he's maybe pulling on one of the other content providers in to do that, you guys will talk about some success stories on that, and then talk about the challenges, because I really do think that you're all going to have challenges. I still have challenges, and just like Dave, who only does a 20-minute jam session, most of mine are 60 minutes, and if I have the opportunity to make it a full 90, it's kind of a home run for me. So kind of as we roll in here, we're just about on the end of our hour, so I just want to say thanks to Jen for jumping in. Do you have any last words you want to throw in before we let everyone run off to their day?
No, I just think, don't hang up the phone call. Don't hang up the phone call and say, okay, so I was on the call for an hour, that's great, next. I'll look at everything next week. Really make sure that you're carving out the time to internalize everything and implement as many things as you can before next week's call.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and if I were some of you, I would consider making my next jam session right now when we complete this call. And if you don't have time to do it now because you've already got commitments, I would spend some time this afternoon and look at next week's calendar. I've got all of my on time already blocked in my calendar for next week, and those are non-negotiable things to me. Certainly there are times where an opportunity comes up that's too good to pass up, and I'll bump that earlier or later. But for the most part, probably 95+% of them get done when they're in my calendar because I've made it a non-negotiable appointment. So that's great advice.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey guys, can I jump in real quick? So, hey Todd,
hey, there he is.
Yeah, right. Hey, as we close out, could you?
You've done a nice job of letting us run this, Dave. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really, Jen and I enjoyed ourselves.
Hey, it's hard for me not to talk for that long a period of time. But hey, Todd, if you wouldn't mind, if you could pull up the Facebook private group as we close out this call. I think what's super powerful about the mastermind part of this is that we just have a powerhouse. I mean, the folks that are leading it are just some of the best successful people in the business, and many of you that are participants and attendees are also there. And those of you that are new to the business, you know what we learn from you guys. You know, we get energy. You know, and anybody who takes on a mentorship role in this industry, we get energy from your success. You know, there's nothing that's more gratifying than starting with someone who's new in their career or start working with someone who's struggling and to be part of a change. I mean, there's just nothing better than that. There's no money that replaces that. So please, you know, engage in our Facebook group. We're having, you know, more engagement, but ask us questions. Tell us, you know, breakthroughs that you've had. We're going on the 3rd week now, so I think we're going to start seeing some folks that are making change for the better. Start sharing those changes that you're having. I also want to remind people that I'm going to be doing another interview with Darren on November 7th, and that call is not just going to be a repeat of what we did last time. We are truly asking people, what questions would you like Darren to answer? How would you like us to serve you? And we're answering those questions. So if you have a question that you want Darren to respond to when we do the next call together, let him know. Also, if you haven't noticed, Darren is watching what's going on in our group. You know, I mean, if you ask a question, he'll probably answer it. You know, what he's doing with Mortgage Coach is something that he considers very important, and it's part of his mission to make change with people. And you know, he's very excited about making change in the mortgage space. So with that said, folks, you know, again, grateful for everybody who it's been an hour of their time. Todd and Jen, super grateful for your leadership. Todd, since you ran the call, I'll let you say the last words, but thanks everybody. And Todd?
You know, I just second that. Thanks so much. It was a great call. I appreciate everyone who participated, and I know that those of you who were just listening hopefully got a ton out of it and would love any feedback on any way that you guys would love these calls to progress in the future.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Have an awesome day and a great weekend.
Thank you.